The Tortured Poets Department. Let's talk about it. I love Taylor Swift. All of her albums that she's released since debut, all the way until Folklore, they're great. They're amazing. I love them. I listen to them all the time. Now, Midnights, her album that came out in 2022, I don't necessarily have a rabid love for that album. But even with Midnights, like last month, I went through a phase where I was listening to that album all the time, especially at night. There's also Evermore. Sometimes, that album bores me a little bit, but it has some unbelievable songs. Tolerate It, Tis the Damn Season, and especially one of my favorite songs to play on piano, Champagne Problems. So, what about the Tortured Poets Department? I vividly remember when this album came out at 12 a.m. I was so excited. I was calling all my friends, frantically calling them, and they were all too tired to hang out and listen to the album with me, and I was so upset, but that's okay. But the album, The Tortured Poets Department, it's just as amazing as all of her other albums, right? Well, not exactly. I still really do like this album, and I've listened to it about 7 times through since it came out on April 19th, about 3 weeks ago now. It's difficult for me to make a complete judgment on this album too, because in all honesty, I have not listened to the anthology portion of this album yet, which is the second half that she released at 2 a.m. So, what is Taylor Swift doing well in this album? In my opinion, and I hope in your opinion too, Taylor Swift, she knows how to write a song. And she knows how to write some of the best songs that will stick in your head immediately. Think Cruel Summer, Getaway Car, or the slow burners that are going to catch you over and over again. I'm thinking about Last Kiss on Speak Now. I'm thinking about Enchanted. Enchanted, easily one of the greatest songs of all time. In terms of catchy songs on this album, the epitome for me is Down Bad. That song is so catchy, it physically hindered me when I was trying to take an engineering final the other week. It was literally glued into my head, replaying over and over and over and over again for 2 hours. And I needed to focus, and I could not focus because that song was stuck in my head. Now, with that being said, will the lyrics on the chorus of the song age well? Probably not. Down Bad is slang, and that's unfortunately not really going to go over well in about 20 years. But right now, it's great. Also, the musical part that plays at the beginning of the song, as well as over the course of the song, the da-na-na-na, it's so good. I love it. And there's a song, My Boy Only Breaks His Favorite Toys. It's an instant classic Taylor Swift bridge. With time, I would say that this would be up there with a bridge like You're on Your Own Kid from Midnights, which is probably my favorite bridge on that album. When she breaks away from the main part of the song and she breaks into the bridge on the outro, chills. It's a fantastic moment on the album, maybe even my favorite. In general, the first section of this album is very strong. The title track, The Tortured Poets Department, that was an immediate standout for me. When I first turned the album on, first hearing Fortnite was interesting, as that song is a slow burner, and I've decided now that it's mostly in a good way. Watching the weird music video for this song really sealed the deal for me too, because Taylor Swift, she's in a cage on the roof, and then she's on the floor, and then she's on a wall, walking on the wall, then she's walking through the door, and then Post Malone is there. So overall, solid song. But back to the Tortured Poets Department, the song. It hits you hard at the beginning of the song with these reverb Jack Antonoff drums, and I love when drums sound like that. But then we get hit with the, You're not Dylan Thomas, I'm not Patti Smith, this ain't the Chelsea Hotel, we're two idiots. What is going on? I was so confused when I first heard this line because it's so out of nowhere. But it's catchy, and it's a lyric that really has stuck with me from this album, so kudos to Taylor for that. And of course, I can't forget about So Long London, which is sort of like the tragic finale of this first part of the album. A classic Taylor Swift track 5. The music on here is subdued, but the beat is so persistent. It's like, do, do, do. It's like you're hearing Taylor Swift's heartbeat, or like you're inside of her head just seeing her thoughts flying around in circles above you. For me, this song really just hits you like a ton of bricks, and it's another one of my favorite songs on here. Also, I believe this song was produced by Aaron Dessner, so it's a nice little change in production from what has already come before on the album. The first four tracks are produced by Jack Antonoff. And this leads me to my first complaint, actually, starting with the production. Jack Antonoff, he's the primary producer of this album, but honestly, I'm thinking it's about time that he and Taylor Swift begin to part ways. Of course, Jack Antonoff and Taylor Swift, they're great friends, and they made some of their best songs together. I'm thinking about, from Folklore specifically, August, This Is Me Trying, Mirror Ball, legendary songs. But this album, The Tortured Poets Department, sometimes I just feel like I'm listening to Midnight's Part 2, and that really hinders the album for me. I also have a similar complaint about Evermore sort of feeling like Folklore Part 2. And Folklore, it's genuinely one of my favorite albums of all time. But that It's Been Done Before feeling hurts Evermore, and it hurts Tortured Poets even more, since Midnight's is not nearly as strong of a record for me as Folklore is. Shout out Betty. Also, it hurts to say this, but the Tortured Poets Department, it feels rushed. Taylor just dropped Midnight's in the fall of 2022, and she's been on tour constantly since then. It's really just hard for me to think that she had enough time to sit down, write a bunch of great songs, 31 of them to be exact, and then let all 31 of them marinate for a while to see if they could actually stand the test of time. Songs like Clarabow, I Can Fix Him, No Really I Can, and especially But Daddy I Love Him are songs that highlight why I feel this way. I really don't remember any parts of these songs very well at all, even after 7 listens, especially But Daddy I Love Him. I really do not like that song. It's long, it's boring, and as soon as that song turns on, I immediately just want it to end. Sadly for me, it kills all the momentum that was building from Fortnite all the way to So Long London. And now we have to listen to this lame, boring song. It's supposed to be an epic song. It's 5 minutes and 40 seconds, the longest song on the album, but I really can't complain enough about it. But now let's talk about the other epic song on this album, one that is much better in my eyes. Who's afraid of little old me? I'm not afraid. It's a roller coaster for me. It's a long song, and it always seems to be changing or doing something different, which I think is cool. First, Taylor's screeching, "Who's afraid of little old me?" Then she says it normally. Then she shrieks again. Then, "You should be." Uh-oh. Then it's time for the lyrical roller coaster. First, it's one of my least favorite lines on the whole album. "So tell me everything is not about me, but what if it is?" With a spooky Beethoven like dun 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 in the back. It's really bad. I love Taylor, and I love seeing her during the Chiefs games every Sunday more than anything, but even this is too much for me.
Go Patriots.
But then, Taylor immediately redeems herself and says, "You wouldn't last an hour in the asylum that they raised me," which is hilarious. It's relatable and just a great line. The streets raised me too, Taylor. It's brutal out there. With all this being said, who's afraid of little old me? I can see why a Taylor Swift anti-fan would hate this song. It's polarizing. It's sort of like playing into her status as one of the biggest, most powerful, most famous singers in the world. But overall, I like it. Some other songs of note are LOML or LMOL, LMOL, LOML. This song will rip your heart out. It will shred it into pieces and then put it back into your body and tell you to go run down the street 10 miles in the 90-degree sun. It is brutal. The piano is so somber and depressing. It's downtrodden. This is my original favorite song on this album, and it still might be, even though it is really simple and quiet as a song. Then, immediately after, there's a song like I Can Do It With a Broken Heart. That song essentially just skips around like a gazelle through space and time, with Taylor Swift pretending to be on top of the world, when clearly she's feeling terrible and upset about what happened in LOML. This duo of songs is another massive highlight on the album for me. The Alchemy is a good song, so is The Smallest Man Who Ever Lived. There's also Fresh Out the Slammer. The switch up at the end of Fresh Out the Slammer, it's so weird, yet interesting. It's unlike anything I've really heard from a Taylor Swift song before, so I'll give that song props for that. And I believe it's one of the stronger songs on the album. So, to sum up my critiques of this album, it has a very similar sound to Midnight's, and I wish Taylor would switch it up. It's not just Midnights, too. She's been working with Jack Antonoff since Lover, and that was 5 albums ago. For me, some of the songs really fall flat, and some of them are particularly annoying to my ears. Sorry, but Daddy, I Love Him, and also Florida, which is unfortunate because the first time I listened to Florida, I was so excited. I went on Google and screenshotted a picture of Florida to my phone. Unfortunately, it's just hard for me to listen to that song now, though. Florence and the Machine and Taylor Swift do not gel as well as I thought they would. So, the flow of this album is a little choppy, especially in the middle portion. Everything just feels a little bit rushed, too. The album is long, it's over an hour, and I don't think there's enough fiery and amazing songs on here to justify that runtime either. And I'm not even considering the tracks on the anthology portion of this album, which I'm hoping to review soon. But adding those tracks, it would make this whole album 2 hours, and that's just a lot of time to spend listening to an album. And you really have to have your tracks down pat to make an album that long. The best songs on this album: Tortured Poets Department, My Boy Only Breaks His Favorite Toys, Down Bad, So Long London, Fresh Out the Slammer, Who's Afraid of Little Old Me, LOML, I Can Do It With a Broken Heart, and The Smallest Man Who Ever Lived. Songs to avoid include But Daddy, I Love Him, Florida, I Can Fix Him, No Really I Can, and Clarabow. Unfortunately, the verdict is that this album is currently my 11th favorite Taylor Swift album. There are 11 Taylor Swift albums. It's 11th out of 11. But my rating for this album is good. It's a good album. This is my rating for this album. So long, London. Goodbye. So long, London. Goodbye. Till death do us part.